Now, dangerous levels of smog in China's capital, Beijing, have been the subject of intense media coverage, both inside and indeed outside the country, over recent years. But other Chinese cities, particularly in the north of the country, also suffer from the scourge of polluted air. Yesterday here on China Take, we mentioned the appalling air quality levels in Harbin. That's the capital of the northeastern province of Heilongjiang. Since Sunday, the city has been hit by a deadly mixture of fog and heavy pollution that's brought visibility down to under 200 feet. And more seriously, perhaps, the density of PM 2.5 particles. Those are the tiny airborne particles, less than 2.5 microns in diameter, that are the most dangerous type of contamination for human beings. They've regularly exceeded the maximum of 500 micrograms per cubic metre. That's the maximum on most scales. And in some areas of the city, the levels even hit 1,000. The WHO, in contrast, recommends that PM 2.5 levels should be no more than 50 for safety reasons. Local authorities in Harbin suspended classes for elementary and middle schools and cancelled some public buses. Now, while the media quoted experts as blaming home and community heating sources as the first cold wave of the winter hit, many net users feel that industry and vehicles also play just as big a role. Whatever the causes of the smog, it's been one of the hottest topics in China's online community recently. So to hear what's being said, let's now join our researcher, Esther Dung, in the newsroom. OK, Esther, we've seen some of these incredible pictures of smog in Harbin over the past few days. What sort of reaction are you seeing from net users?
Well, as you say, the smog in Harbin has certainly dominated the headlines in Chinese media over the past few days. And plenty of locals there have posted pictures online to demonstrate just how terrible the air quality is outside and inside their homes and workplaces. And of course, I've seen so many Harbin locals commenting online, and this one is on 163.com. Yesterday, when I went outside, my first thought was that some Japanese volcano had erupted and sent the ash over here. Later, I realized it has nothing to do with any volcano. For God's sake, I've inhaled so much cancer-causing dust. And as you mentioned, heavy smoke has been all too common in plenty of cities in northern China in recent years. I've seen so many posters who also complain about the bad air quality in the places they live. Like this one from Changchun, the capital of the neighboring province of Jilin, who says, the air conditions in Changchun are exactly the same as in Harbin. I just walked through our school campus and I couldn't even breathe. Some even expressed envy for Harbin, where at least the schools were closed and the traffic reduced due to the smog. I listened to this poster from Jinan, the capital city of the eastern province of Shandong. Well, we also have heavy smog here in Jinan, and the visibility is even worse, less than 70 feet, but schools are still open. And of course, many posters are deeply worried about the long-term effects. Shi Nu from Guangdong simply says, I'm afraid this is just the start. Well, an even more pessimistic net user asks, I'm wondering, for those of us living in China, how many years do we have?
OK, certainly some strong reactions there. But what about the reasons behind this? Whenever the pollution worsens here in Beijing, we hear about construction, car exhaust, industrial pollution. But it seems the Harbin local authorities mentioned, or experts at least, blamed heating systems. Now, surely they put on the heating every year. What's the difference this time? What do net users think is the difference?
Well, based on what I've seen, the majority of net users aren't buying that theory at all. For most of them, industrial pollution is the main reason for the smog. And actually, the local Environmental Protection Bureau told the media that the problem is that the coal is the main fuel in the city. But they also said farmers in the countryside around there burn stubble at this time of year. And this has led to polluted air in both countryside and urban areas. Ali de Meng on people.com.cn says, come on, we Chinese people have done the same thing for centuries, but we never had smog until very recently. Don't the officials feel it's too far-fetched to relate the smog to people's living habits? The main reason is our economic development model. And this poster, Shen Sheng Laoban, has no doubts, saying simply, it's all because of the industrial waste gases. And then a poster called Planet Li writes on Weibo.com. The northeastern provinces in China are the center of heavy industry. That's why the sky there is not blue and the clouds there aren't white. Unfortunately, those provinces aren't even really rich. Finally, Newman has this rather bitter take. So in future, we should stop cooking food, abandon heating our houses and workplaces, leave our cars at home, and stop any behavior that may cause air pollution, including passing wind.
Okay, and finally, Esther, the problem of smog in China has been with us really for quite some time now. It's not going to disappear overnight no matter what happens, but have net users any suggestions of about, well, how some improvement might be made in this?
Yes, there are some, but I have to say a lot are simply venting their anger towards those they see as responsible for the situation, the governments at various levels, and their failure to deal with the air pollution. 谈判桌上 asks on grg.com.cn. I just can't understand why we didn't deal with the pollution until it's become so serious that we can't even see buildings across the street from us. And this poster has a simple demand. Give us back our blue skies. A lot of net users suggest the closure of heavily polluting factories and other pollution sources, like Bingyu Fengzheng, who says, just shut down the polluting companies immediately and ban small boiler heating systems. But for some, it's not that easy. I'll finish up with a more thoughtful comment from Alex Deng on Tianya.cn. The authorities know exactly which companies are polluting the air, but they just can't simply close them. If they do, there'll be a huge number of laid-off workers, tax revenues will be reduced, and the country's economy will face difficulties. For me, the most effective way is to introduce and enforce tough laws and regulations. If companies that cause heavy pollution to our environment face massive fines, they won't dare to continue with heavily polluting production lines. Only in this way can we gradually get rid of the smog.
Okay, thanks for that, Esther. And that was China Take researcher Esther Deng with some online reaction here in China to those incredibly high smog levels in the city of Harbin in northeastern China over the past few days. Next up on China Take, some of the top trending phrases on China's most popular search engines.